Hi everyone, Roy Neary from the PowerApps, Data Spinners and TDG. Today I'm going to do a demo of how it is you can create an accounts close process. To begin with, we are going to create an app, but before we do that, we need to push some data into our tenant. So I'm going to take you all the way through that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm here on Office 365. I'm in the tenant associated with the work that we're doing for the Power User Days. And the first thing I'm going to do is go to Teams, because inside Teams I've put a file for you that should help you to continue with this. Now it's jumped straight onto files, so if you don't get to the Teams straight away, you can click left onto the Teams and then you'll need to click onto the files, because you might find that you end up on conversations or something now. So what you then need to do is to open the spreadsheet. I'll just give you a view of this because it won't open online straight away, or rather it will open online straight away. So it is a tremendously simple spreadsheet. Ignore the fact that they've got titles, as there is a reason for that. So we've got a number of records, and essentially what they're saying is the task has not been done. The division it's not been done for is North, South or Europe, and the task is purchase ledger. Now what you'll need to do is, in a moment, we'll actually open this in online, on our computer, so we will need to download it. Now I don't normally, there we are, edit in Excel. So if we go edit in Excel and just go open Excel, now you can just download it, it's not a problem anyway. So I'll go open Excel. Now you will need to make sure on Excel you are correctly signed in. So I'm going to grab this, but obviously you'll need to grab your bit of text. I'll see if I can copy that. I don't normally do this. So here we go. So I needed to edit it so I could grab hold of it. Here we are. Grab that there. I'm now going to go back onto the screen where I needed to access it. That's right. And I will log in there. I did a copy and paste, but that didn't work, obviously. That is not helping either. So I clicked on it a couple of times and I ended up with an email popping up. This is the, there aren't that many difficult things to do on this. So I'm just copying that, and I should be able to then paste that into here. No, it's not having any of this at all. I don't know if it's because it's not the screen. I'll just hold on for a second. So there we are, I've pasted it in, and I'm going to click next, and what that means is that Excel is going to be correctly logged in theory as me on this particular tenant, and it is relevant to the exercise that we're going to be doing later on. You need to pop in your password and then sign in. Oh, thanks very much. Now the joy of working with many tenants is quite often they don't actually log you in and out correctly. So I can see here it's not on the correct tenant. So I'm just here in Excel. I finally got the spreadsheet open. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to sign in with a different account, because I don't think it'll work correctly if I don't sort of sign in this way. So I'll click next on that, and I should get my login pop up in a second. In fact, it didn't come up, but that's actually okay. So I'm all correctly logged in here, and what I need to do is on the search bar, this is the way I did it, on the search bar just go to export, and what export in fact I need to actually select it on the table itself. So if I now click on the table and type export, then you'll get an option to export data, export table to a SharePoint list. Now I need to give you the URL to make that life a little bit easier. So I should do that now. So I've got the URL that we all need here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto there, make sure you copy it from the formula bar there, copy that there, then click on the actual table itself, then go to export, export data, click on there, export table to SharePoint list, and then we'll paste this string here. And we need to give the table a name, and so we're all going to create SharePoint lists with different names, and so I'm just going to think of the right name for that. So I'm going to call this user Rory month end, but you need to call it user 1, user 2, whichever your user is. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click finish on that, and I'll show you in a moment what we've actually done. So you can see that actually it's created a list for us, which was super fast. Now I suspect that if I actually go to try and find the list, it'll probably bounce me onto the wrong website, but I'll click on it anyway and see what happens. That doesn't look too bad. Okay, so what that means is we've now created a SharePoint list, and it is literally called user Rory month end. Now what we're going to do now is we are going to create an app from that list. So I am just going to literally click on PowerApps and click create an app, and I'm going to call it user Rory month end close, and I'm going to call mine vid, but you can just leave the vid bit off, because I think that when I'll do the proper demo we'll all be doing it together. So here we go. I'm going to click create on that, and what that's going to do is it's going to create a PowerApps 3-screen app. It's what they call an app from data. So it takes a little bit of time to do. It usually takes maybe a minute, but it certainly on this demo it's taken a bit longer than it would normally take, but I won't worry too much about it. So same on this thing to do with welcome to PowerApp Studio, you probably get that. You also might have had some messages because you've never used PowerApps before and so on. So here we go. So we've got an app that frankly isn't that great yet. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to sort of maybe tidy it up a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is whenever you're editing PowerApps, you need to make sure you go to the top record. Now there's a number of ways of going to it. You can literally click on the top record, which is fine, but if you're in this screen here and you can see, actually I'll just make this slightly bigger, you can actually see this little edit thing here. That will always take you to the top record, which is, well, rather the template. So, and this corresponds directly to the SharePoint list that we have just created, and I'll show you in a moment why that's the case. So what we're going to do now is a few relatively straightforward fixes to make it look a little bit nicer to read. So I'm going to click on the gallery. The gallery is the container for all of our items. Then I'm going to click on the edit, and then I'm going to click on this where it says this item.title. Now I know that if I delete this, what's going to happen is that because the position of these is relative to the position of this object, we'll get errors. So I'll just show you if I delete it. So if I press delete, we'll get errors there. So I'm going to press the undo, which is top left. You can also do Control Z. And what I'm going to do is to fix that, all I'm going to do is move this around, because it actually changes the formulas to fix it. So for the purpose of this video, you know, if you just move them around up and down, then you should have no there shouldn't be any issues, because each of these objects have relative positions. So now that if I delete this A, which is this item.title, which is completely useless to us, we should be okay. So what this is saying is, it's only saying two things at the moment. It's saying no and north. Essentially it's supposed to be the task itself. Now we can move these around, but the idea is that this, if I sort of, it's just a drag and move things around, similar to do in many of the Office products. So I'm just moving these into the place that I'd like to have it in. What I need to be bringing in is I need the task. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do insert text, then label. What it's now doing is this item.division, and so this gallery is actually looking, it's a very long-winded way of looking at my SharePoint list, and really all it's doing is if I just show this, that's all it's doing. It's looking at the month end, but the difference is when you get the out of the box app, it's got a search facility on it, which we don't actually need. Now it won't use the up down sort, and it won't use the search thing. I'm not going to bother moving them for the moment though. But what I want to do is I'm just going to go on to I'm going to go on to Teams, over to Teams. In fact, I need to get a SharePoint, so I want to find my SharePoint list, which is inside this site. Now, what you might find is you may struggle to find your SharePoint list, so hopefully you've navigated to it. I'm going to have to go to my site contents so that I can actually navigate to this a bit more easily. But it should just be pretty straightforward. We just put the name of our, it's just waking up here, by the way. And then it will give us all of the things that are in there, and you can actually see user Rory month end. So if I click on that, then what we've got is HTTPS, etc., and it says user Rory month end. So I'm pretty sure that if we just grab that and pop it on the end of, if I go to home on this, which is normally where you start, I think if we pop that on the end, that should get, no, it needs the whole lot by the looks of it, all items.axpx. So if I do that, pop that in there, we should be okay. Lovely. Okay, absolutely doesn't find it at all. I can't quite see at the moment the reason why it would be upset with that. Oh, it's because it's got it's Power User Days lists. So I will. I'm going to copy that and paste it into the Excel spreadsheet for you. So in it goes there. I know I need to put it on edit. Yeah, that's in there, and I'm just going to pop this in here as well, so you can replace that with your text. So please don't come onto my list, because we all have the ability to do that. So now I'm going to go on to this Power User Days. I just want to demonstrate that we have got this title field, which is completely meaningless. But we've just got done, division, and task. So so what we need to do is go back to our app. And if I do this item.division, it gives me the division. But if I do this item.task, what I would always recommend is just use the IntelliSense and then pick the item you want. Because I think if we type in task here and just press enter, that's not going to get the job done, because everything I've done is in capitals, just for simplicity. So this is the task that we're doing, and so I'm just going to move these around a little bit to kind of neaten the whole thing up, because I'd like to get all the tasks onto literally just one screen. So move that up, and then I'm going to click on the actual template itself. They call it a template, this thing here, and drag this all the way up. And in this case, we can now see them all. Now, actually, this is funny because it's kind of come out in a really weird order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a sort on this. So I'm going to do sort that. What are we going to sort it by? We're going to sort it by the task. And let's do that ascending. And then we'll sort it by the division. Vision. Oh, don't like that. Actually, I think sort will actually only do one sort, which I think is a little bit rubbish. But there you go. But it's not a huge problem. I mean, there's lots of ways of of doing, I think we can do sort by columns and so on. But anyway, the idea is we have interco, purchase ledger, and then sales ledger. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is look at what we've got here. We've got interco, north, no, and essentially we have an app, and this app actually works. So what we can do is we can go onto here. In fact, let me just press X. I'll press this don't show me again, and I'll press the preview the app. It's really important to preview the app. This is what it's going to be like, and it would work on your phone. So if you then click the view item details, it's not a terribly useful screen. I normally delete it, and then we go on to edit. Then we can change the whether or not it's done from no to yes. I'm going to keep it as capitals, and I'm going to submit the item, and then press back. Now, I think there's something funny going on at the moment with PowerApps as to whether or not normally these are supposed to actually refresh. Now, what I did was actually did the refresh list thing, but in reality, the moment that we actually clicked on it, I'll show you this again on the list itself. There's my list. I'm going to refresh this page here, because what we should see is one of them going to a yes, which it does down there. And I'm just going to demonstrate that that the minute that we perform the task, so I'm going to go into co again, and I'm going to put done, and I'm going to make that yes, and then click OK on there and press back. But we just wanted to demonstrate that although we haven't clicked the refresh, the data is actually updated at this point. So I'm just going to click refresh on that page just to demonstrate that the data has genuinely updated. You can see it down there, it's gone to yes, yes. Now, I've been quite deliberate in terms of making this a text field. I didn't want to get into any complex data types. You would normally use things like true and false and so on, but that makes elements of the app and the demo more complex. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to click refresh on there. You can see that we've got it sort of changing around. And so we can see, yes, the task has been done. So later on, the idea is that when all of the intercompany tasks have been done, we're going to get an email or purchase ledger, whatever it might be. This is our kind of scenario, if you like. So what I'm going to do now is I'd kind of like it to go green if it was a yes, and red if it's a no. That'd be kind of nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto here, and I'm going to click on this this field here which says yes, and I am going to go on to the left hand side. There's lots of ways you can get to it. I just go onto the left hand side, but what we're going to do is go onto the fill property. So we can either get it via this, or we can actually click on the fill option. The only thing is we could do it like this. We could kind of make it red, but it's kind of pointless because we want it to be conditional. So what I need to do is I need to go onto the fill property, and you can see that essentially this RGBA is actually red. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if this item, which is essentially the list, this item dot, I think it's called done, isn't it? Done equals, and do quotes, yes, which is in capitals, and then do comma, and then green. Make sure you pick it, because that's, I don't think you could get away with green there. You know, it wouldn't be happy with this. In fact, you can see it's just changed it back to lowercase green. And the next bit of the statement is otherwise red. So you can see whether or not the task has been done. So we've now got these green and reds. And in fact, what you can do is you can actually go to the text property, and you can actually just remove the text completely, and just just make it a visual thing. Like there's your so it's just a little box with greens and so on, and reds. So now there are ways. It's very straightforward to remove the middle screen. I'm not going to bother doing that now. But what I'm going to do is I much prefer drop-downs to indicate whether or not tasks have been done or not. So I'm just going to show you how you would do it in this situation. So I'm going to go onto the play, and I'm going to move through to the edit screen. And what I'm going to do is now going to close the preview, and I'm going to drag. This is the box. This thing where it says yes is actually the thing that then communicates with the SharePoint list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this. In fact, it's probably going to get upset with me, so I have to get a advanced. It's really, really important, and it's slightly bizarre, but you have to go unlock to change properties. It's like, what else are you going to do? Like, now you can't undo this unlock thing, but don't worry about it. I mean, you know, who else is going to do it? You know, people you give your app to can't do this anyway, so it's kind of pointless. But what you do have to do is unlock to change the properties, and what I'm going to do is drag this across here. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to put in a drop down, and so I'm going to go up to controls and then go to drop down. So that's going to put it inside there. Now watch what happens if I try and put a drop down onto division. Controls, drop down. It'll actually put it outside. One drop down's inside and one drop down is outside. So if you don't unlock the properties, unlock the card, it won't go to the right place. Now this has gone to the right place, so I'm just going to do a little resize operation there, and the options are what they call drop down. It's a sample option, so you can see that you've actually got 1, 2, 3. But of course, nobody ever uses it because you want to put your own items in. So this is a very simple way of doing the items. So you do a square bracket, and I'm going to do capitals, yes, comma, no. And what that's going to do is, and then it's a close square bracket. That's going to give me 2 options. Now, how is it? What's it choosing? This has a default associated with it. So I'm going to type default on there. Now the default is 1 because what we're going to do is we need it to default to the value that the database currently says. And the way to do that is to, and the database in this case is the SharePoint list. And the way to do that in this case is to type in parent.default. It's just how you say it. It's just something to get used to. And what that means now is that each time we move on to it, it will actually be, the dropdown will say the right thing. The next thing that we've got to do is we've got to go onto this data card and make it look at the drop down. So what we're going to do there is we're going to go onto the text field. Text, hold on. Oh, it's not. Let me just see on this one here. It should be text. You actually can put on you actually put it as default, which is well, yeah, and that's how this particular field works. It's not actually a text box. It's a slightly different thing. So you go on this particular one, you go to the default. It's saying what is the default, and in fact what we want the default to be is this drop down here. So the way to do that is you go onto the default and you type in drop down 1, which is the drop down that we brought in, dot selected. Now you've got 2 options here. I think selected text is a little bit better. Selected text dot value. And what that's going to bring in, it's going to bring in yes. But the difference is that it will change based on what you select here. Now, what you can then do is you can actually hide this. So if you can put the visible property and you go visible and you do false. So it's still there, it's just you can't see it, but that's fine. So now I'm happy with that, and I'll just sort of demonstrate that it does actually change. So I'm going to go back there, and I'm just going to move on to this purchase ledger for Europe thing here, and I'm going to go and edit that, and it comes up as no, and I type in yes, and I'll click OK on that. I am getting this peculiar thing where it's not refreshing. There are ways around this, but don't worry about it too much. I'm just going to refresh this here just so you can see it has actually changed, and then go on to edit this, and you can see that it's now shown as yes. But I will just do a bit of a checky on this and just see whether or not how well it behaves itself. I'm going to edit this, move it to yes, and I'm going to submit that item. That's definitely would have changed the data. We know that already. And then go back. And what I want to do is I want to go forward through this. I want to see what it gets up to. Yeah, comes up with yes. So it seems it's being a bit peculiar. You can actually get it to refresh the list and automatically and so on, but not for this demo. So I now have an app that works, and if you wanted to, you could download this onto your phone and make sure you authenticate correctly, and you would be able to use this app, and and you would be able to pretend that you were each of the regions. Now, bear in mind that there are options around creating effectively row level security based on who's logged in and so on. We're not doing that now. In reality, most accountants don't want to mess up other people's data. What we'll do actually, I am just going to demonstrate that we can actually know who last updated it. So I'm just going to do that and then do insert, and I'm going to go, I'm going to put a text, I put a label in there, and I'm just going to go and show you that you can actually get this item dot modified by, and essentially that will give us the email modified by dot, okay, modified dot email, and I'll pop there. It's quite long-winded, isn't it? Obviously that's not that helpful, but that's just because it's quite long. And I'll put display name instead. Display name. It should be there. So you can actually see that I was the one that modified it, but if somebody else modified it, you'd know straight away, and so on. So there are other out-of-the-box fields that you can use, but I'm going to keep this. Well, we're done. We're okay. There's tons of things, more you can do with this, but we're now at the point where we're ready to build our flow that is associated with this. So this is the end of this video. The next video we'll be doing a flow so that when all the items are green for any of them, we will get an email to say that that overall task has been completed.